What's up, everybody? We're back after a couple of days being away. This is the follow up to the Fractured Archive blog post that we saw a couple weeks ago. They just recently posted a follow up to it today. It came out while I was at work today. So I haven't, this is going to be the first time I'm going through reading all of it. So I wanted to, before I even watched anybody's videos or thoughts on it or read anything on Reddit about it, I just heard people talking about certain things. The only thing that I know that I've heard, and we're gonna find out now if it's changed, is that they removed the hybrid armor. So this is just things that I've heard from my buddies on Discord, and I mean, it's probably true. I haven't read the blog post myself. I haven't watched anybody's videos on it. I haven't watched any creators on it because I feel like it's really. I just want to have a fresh mind with no opinion. Just go, going at it, reading through it the first time and giving you my first opinions on it, and then I'll go back and I'll watch videos and we'll make a follow up to it at some point and give you my thoughts at that point. So that's kind of what I want to do here, right? Everybody's gonna come out and make videos about this and have their own opinions on it. But the way that I want mine to kind of stand out is I just don't want to. I want to come at this raw without reading it uh, beforehand. This is gonna be the first time we're reading it together, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on it. So we're going to start from the beginning. We're back from Chicago. While you've been exploring Vampirium beneath a crimson moon, we've been chatting about the fractured archive beneath the sweltering sun. So let's get stuck in and talk rewards once more. To kick things off, we were over the moon with the initial reception and think we have a solid foundation to build from. So we're optimistic that polling on rewards offering can begin sooner rather than later to ensure a suite of unique style you'll be happy to see in your name. This blog covers some thoughts and clarifications on the proposals we shared initially alongside a handful of brand new additions. So we'll start by covering the things you're already familiar with. The Rendashi, okay? Out of everything we shared, this one likely had the most questions about how exactly it would work in a way that makes sense. So we'd like to go over some of those frequently asked questions that we saw. So yeah, how is this going to work, right? How will the shield bash work with weapons that have a special attack? Before reading this, I mean I kind of just imagine that they're gonna add another orb. That's kind of what I've always imagined it being like. They never clarified on it, so we'll get some clarification on what that's like now. Our intent here is to make something that feels easy and fluid to use, so we'll make any improvements necessary to ensure we're not releasing something that feels clunky like the Dragon Fire Shield. We've got a couple of options that we're exploring at the moment, including splitting the special attack orb, splitting the special, okay, adding a context based second special attack bar or special attack orb when the Redanshi is equipped. So that's kind of what I envisioned it being like, that second option. So let's see. Ultimately, we want to make sure that the Rendashi feels easy and intuitive to use as opposed to the current functionality of something like the Dragon Fire Shield. Right. So, whichever tech we end up developing here to make this usable could be readily retrofitted into the Dragonfire Shield in the future. So that's cool that they're talking about this. I brought that up in the first video I made about this, that this was already this concept is already in the game with the Dragonfire Shield. They just never made it easy or accessible for people to use. You always have to just go into your equipment slot, right click the Dragonfire Shield, and then use the Dragon Breath or whatever it's even called. It's out of the way. Some people don't even know that it exists, but it's in there. And so it's cool that they're bringing it to light now because it's really been there for years. So, anyways, let's continue on. How does flat armor work with magic or typeless damage? Flat armor currently doesn't interact with typeless or magic damage. Okay. For typeless damage, where I'm not really sure what they mean by typeless damage. What it like a poison or something, or like I'm not sure, but anyways, for typeless damage, we're cautious about adding mitigation here since it serves as a way to introduce damaging mechanics that rely solely on movement or specific interactions rather than overheads or gear. So I was recently playing on my peer account and I was doing the haunted mine quest, and there was like this portion in the quest that was extremely annoying where you're fighting the final boss of the quest, if you can even call it that. It's like a level 100 ghost, and then you're running around and taking this annoying damage from like things moving around, the machines moving around inside of the cave, and it's just like the most annoying design ever. It's an old quest, but that's, I guess, typeless damage. These things are just hitting you for tens like consistently, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then a level one pure, it's kind of annoying. Anyways, for magic damage, we're keen to keep flat armor specific to melee slash range since it serves as a useful balancing lever for NPCs to help magic shine. That makes sense. That said, we know there are use cases here for chip heavy NPCs who switch styles and utilize magic frequently. Olm or Verzik. And can see the appeal. We think it makes sense for a magical shield to be mitigating magic damage, so we'll make this the case. But we'll need to make some novel attribute like magic resistance on top of flat armor. Time to panic by Mercury Treads. Mercury's Treads, it's funny. Okay. Can I use Shield Bash and a Granite Maul special attack instantaneously after each other? So this is actually kind of cool. I haven't really seen too many people talk about this. I probably just missed it. Um, I just thought what I was thinking was kind of using the Fang a Fang spec. It, you hit with the Fang, wait 2 ticks, use a Shield Bash, and then your 2 ticks later you get another Fang hit. So that could do a lot of DPS in certain places. But combining it with a Granite Maul, that sounds pretty powerful. So here it says, as it stands, yes. If this sounds like it might be overly strong in PvP, then it's possible for us to have these share a cooldown or add a short delay between using back-to-back instant attacks. Yeah, that would be. It sounds like it'd be very strong in PvP. PvP right now, it's like there's so much power creep that's happened in the game because you don't get more hit point levels than 99, right? You get capped at 99. So and things just get progressively stronger. So what happens is you get these weapons that end up doing insane amount of damage. It could stack you up for a 99 very quickly. So adding another shield special attack, which is what this is, on top of a Granite Maul, they're probably going to have to do some reworks there if they want to balance PvP, because as it stands, it sounds very very strong. So how is the shield's bash accuracy rolled? We could have been clearer in the initial blog here. So to explain, shield bash rolls on accuracy, crush accuracy, not in. Oh, okay, wow, okay, crush accuracy. I didn't really realize that. That was kind of an interesting thing actually. So not including bonuses from your equipped weapon against your target's crush defense. Okay, shield bash gains +6 accuracy per stack, meaning that at 20 stacks, you'd be rolling with a +120 crush accuracy on top of any bonuses from armor or jewelry. Beyond specific UX designs, we saw a lot of chatter around the offensive stat line of the Rondashi and some arguments that it was stepping too close to the Antivernic defender offensively, which leads to some concern that Theater of Blood reward offering would be considerably devalued, particularly when coupled with the Breaker absorbing all of the Scythe of Vitter's crush use cases. We think this is a fair point and would like to address it, but we're not dead set on a specific approach. Some ideas that we're currently floating are: bump the Rondashi's strength bonus down, consider increasing the damage of Shield Bash so that it leans more heavily into what makes it unique. So going back to this first paragraph, yeah, it is kind of a risk for the Avernic Defender. When we talk about Theater of Blood, the rewards there are already kind of niche and not very useful. The only thing that is worth your time going there for is the Scythe and the Defender as it stands. The saying is okay depending on where you take it to, but it's already questionable with the saying. So the only two things that you want there is really the Defender and the Scythe. So if this were to even come close to having a defender, I mean, what would even be the point of Theater of Blood rewards, right? It's just like the only thing you would really go there for is a scythe, and yeah, and then I'm sure I've heard that they're reworking the the mega rare for this raid, whatever you pronounce that thing, to not interfere with the scythe as much. But it's you already had the mega rare from this raid getting in the way of the scythe, so yeah, Theater of Blood, it needs some reworking for sure, in terms of its rewards to keep them relevant into the future. So here we go. Remove all strength bonus from the Rendashi and attach it the Avernic Defender, perhaps by breaking it down into Avernic studs to bring the strength bonus back to A plus. So it is like upgrade scape. Look, people hate on upgradescape, but I think it's fine. I don't mind it. It's like I think it keeps everything relevant and I like it. It makes me feel like I want to go up to Theater of Blood and continually progress because I bet you and more than anything some people are going to come out and make comments, "Oh, we don't what's the point of doing this? Just do it or whatever." But honestly, it's the easiest way to make things stay relevant because it if you don't do something like that, which I like this idea, uh, it's just such a simple fix, and I'm kind of of the philosophy of like keep it simple, right? This is the easiest thing to do, in my opinion. So this means that even if the Rendashi is eating into the Avernix use cases, it shouldn't have any overtly detrimental effect on how worthwhile the drop is. We're not the biggest fan of using raid rewards as attachments, but this one feels like it makes more sense in world more than most. I mean, I get that they don't want to use it as raid rewards as attachments, but if you're looking at this game with a long-term perspective, right? Another 10, 15, 20 years like the CEOs has said, it's important that we try to keep everything as relevant and as healthy as possible. So in the future you might have to continue doing upgrade skip. I don't know. Maybe like another 5 years we're talking about raid 6 and what are we going to do at raid 6, right? Like I don't know. That's way off into the future. There's a lot of time between here and then, but it is a question to start kind of thinking about. Everybody that's been playing this game has been playing it for a big portion of the player base has been playing it for so long, and if we want to keep the game healthy, I think we should consider having these type of conversations. So I kind of like this idea. I'm all for upgradescape stuff. I don't mind it. I mean, it does get a little ridiculous at some points, right? With the treads, the treads are kind of ridiculous. Uh, there's so many. You start with the ranger boots, dragon boots, and all the other stuff, the primordial crystals, and then you gotta go get the treads. I mean, I don't know. I know there's a whole bunch of stuff there, and uh, that's another conversation. But it's fine. I think I like this that they're considering this. Okay, so the Rendashi seem to go down quite well as a whole. I agree. I liked it as a concept, especially if they do something like this with the Avernic Defender. With some discussion around the relatively limited number of places where you use one-handed weapons, we agree that there are a limited number of use cases here, but think that's a problem that goes beyond the Rendashi. Since the easiest way to make more of those use cases is to add more smaller enemies where the scythe doesn't shine, but will likely be obliterated by the Soul Reaper axe instead. In general, we feel like you want to use two-handed weapons and fight larger bosses and NPCs, but we think there are avenues like Bane weaponry to make things like this shine, since the likes of Demon Bane and Dragon Bane tend to be one-handed options. Okay, so the essential that covers Rendashi. So my final thoughts on it, yeah, I'm not sure if I talked about it on the first video, but it was always a risk that it was going to creep into the defender, the Avernic defender. So it's good that they're keeping that in mind, right? Because we don't know exactly. You can look at the DPS calcs and all that stuff, but it's really hard to tell how it's going to progress into the future, right? Because there's already a library of content out there right now that it makes sense with the Avernic defender, but I'm sure they're going to want to add content that would complement the Rendashi down the road. So it's going to become a case where it's like, hey, you don't to do this new content, it's better to have a Rendashi and not the Avernic Defender. So if you kind of merge the two by doing the upgrade scape route, uh, it would keep both relevant. So it actually eliminates that risk if you do it. So I think, yeah, that those are my final thoughts on that. So let's move on to the Ascension crossbows. So of all the rewards we shared, these were the ones we most expected you to see and go, that's cool, ship it. And they seem to go down the smoothest of everything. Yeah, the Ascension crossbows look pretty cool. My only thoughts are the artwork, but that's neither here nor there. It just reminds me of RS3, and I don't think anybody likes RS3. So, anyways, the most prevalent discussion point here it was around the limited number of bolt effects that we proposed in our initial offering. Since we said that we'd limit Ascension bolts to only regular diamond and onyx, we think the sensible thing to do right now is to stick to this decision rather than opening up a whole other can of worms by rebalancing bolt effects across the board. Okay, that does make sense. We're talking about adding a new weapon, not a whole crossbow rebalance. That's like a whole nother thing, right? A whole nother can of worms, like they said. And feel that the approach that we're taking of less now, add more later, means these are sufficiently future proof for rework of bolt effects down the line, which is something we're keen on doing. This option also means we could make asymmetric bolt effects which might behave a little differently from their standard counterparts. If it felt appropriate, which might open up more cool reward space in the future. Yeah, I agree with that. While we're talking about bolts, there was a lot of discussion around upkeep for these and the availability of the ascension shards required to make the bolts themselves. So we also, since we also said they likely be required to charge the breaker. Our hope here is that we just provide enough so that you never feel like you're having to slog through a massive grind for an hour of crossbow usage, similar to obtaining more than enough blood vials for a lot of scythe usage if you go on raid for one. We think we'd have we think we've my god. We think we've had a much better track record with charged items and their respective resources in recent years and hope this should be no different. Additionally, we'd like to add an AFK style way to obtain these similar to Ancient Essence or Demon Tears. Ideally, as something you can do in your downtime in a lobby area without hefty inventory requirement. Oh, that'd be actually kind of cool. Like if you're while you're waiting for everybody to apply to your party and get their bank ready, you can just like mine some stuff on the side. I think that'd be the best place to do it. You know how many hours I wasted at TOA or Theater of Blood or something, or even Chambers, just standing there waiting for your teammates to show up. So having that there would be actually an insane quality of life upgrade. Uh, so anyways, additionally, we like to uh, downtime in the lobby without hefty inventory requirements. It's great. So you can it's basically you can be geared and like have it like take up like one inventory spot. That's cool. Meaning you can stock up while you're waiting in your for your squad to come back from a break. One quick final point here is regarding questions about whether the crossbow 2-tick attack speed would be reduced to 3-tick in PvP, similar to the toxic blowpipe. In this case, we think the answer has to be yes. They still pack a hefty punch in PvP, but would be utterly broken if they retained their normal speed. We think since there's some precedent here already, we'd rather just live with the inconsistency to ensure the Ascension crossbows remain powerful, simple to understand, and easy to use in the wider game. So, yeah, I can imagine like it would be absolutely broken in PvP if they kept it at 2-tick. So it makes sense that they're doing that. So, final thoughts on the crossbow. It's good that they're taking their time with this with the bolts. That they're only using diamond and onyx, and then later on down the road we can maybe even bring in some other lesser used bolts like emeralds and stuff like that. Maybe you can find a way to make it useful for here, because if you put like ruby bolts on there, that'd be pretty powerful. So maybe this is an opportunity to kind of bring life into older, not older, but different resources that we don't really get to use as much. So, like ruby bolts are already strong as hell. We need rubies. You need rubies, depending on what you're doing. But if you're using a crossbow, that's usually the meta. So if you can bring life into other gems or something like that, that would be a u- a good use case for that, right? It's just a good opportunity to take care to use that. So that's my final thoughts on the crossbows. So the Tassar Breaker, I think everybody's just gonna end up calling this the Breaker, right? Like that's probably gonna be the name for it. Oh, do you have a breaker? Yeah, I'm gonna bring my breaker, right? Nobody's gonna say Tassar Ket or whatever, just breaker. So, considering this being the raid's mega rare and the thing we were most scared of, we felt like this weapon's fantasy sat really well with you, and we think that with some small tweaking, that we can get it into a really solid position. Yeah, because what I can tell you off the bat is that the seven, however it was, like it rolls to your accuracy 7 times to get a hit. That sounds insanely powerful. Like you basically hit 7 times, like in one hit, and then you pick the highest hit. If I remember right, that's kind of like what it was saying that it was gonna do. Anyways, the elephant in the room here is that our initial proposal had the breaker in too solid a position. We saw calcs for which in short for calculator. Okay, I already know that. Most people should know that. I think that if you play this game, coming through that resulted in the breaker beating the scythe against bosses you typically use slash against, which isn't our intent at all. That makes sense that would happen. It's kind of like the Fang. Like you use the Fang in Tecton because the accuracy is so like good, right? Because it double rolls accuracy that you might as well just use the Fang instead of a crush weapon because you're gonna hit more. So it's just I can imagine the same thing's gonna happen with the breaker. Um, and it would seep into a lot of the scythe stuff. So, anyways, as such, we're toning down the damage re-rolling mechanic to put the breaker into a place where it still excels in its crush niche, but doesn't outperform the scythe against slash weak bosses. We'd been discussing this idea internally, and then saw it suggested by a number of smart players out in the community. So think this should strike the right balance. Uh, damage no longer re-rolls for every defense value higher than crush. Okay. Instead, damage will roll once by default, then an additional 2 times for every melee defense value higher than crush. This means that on an NPC who is weakest to crush, you'll roll damage 5 times. Okay, so it's going from 7 to 5. Is that how I'm understanding it? Okay. Um, the damage bonus scaling with NPC size has been reduced from 25-50% to 20-40. This makes the breaker much easier to understand and balanced around, since the previous iteration meant that NPCs uh, with decent range defense effectively guarantee a minimum of 4 damage rolls for free before factoring in anything else. This also means that for content where the defense stat priority looks like slash, greatest crush, greatest stab, greater, the scythe should confidently outperform the breaker. Stab. Uh, the scythe should confidently outperform the breaker. Just like the Rendashi, we had some usability questions like that we'd like to address. Is the breaker's range 3 tiles? No, we should have been clearer on this initially. The breaker's range is 1 tile, but if you're in range to attack, then you'll still hit targets in that are 2 tiles behind the first. In this sense, it's more akin to a scythe than it is to the Noxious Halberd, for example. This means that you'll drag into melee range correctly when using the breaker, rather than winding up a distance away. Okay, how does the breaker interact with multiple targets? The breaker can hit up to 3 targets at once with no damage bonus applied. It will only hit multiple targets if there isn't a 3x3 or larger enemy present. These targets could be stacked in a line of 3, all on the same tile or any other configuration, so long as they're along the same line as your initial target. Beyond the gameplay implications, we saw a lot of chatter around the theming here. We spoke about this in a handful of replies, but to reiterate, the Fractured Archive is a collection of Guthic's most prized artifacts from a variety of factions and cultures across Gielinor. So it's like getting to some lore stuff here. The lore hounds among you might know that the Sihar were inhabitants of Gielinor before Guthic's arrival, which may shed some doubt on whether or not the breaker was made to be used by the Tizihar or to be used against the Tizihar. That's something for you to ascertain once you dive deeper into the archives. On top of that, we saw some discussion around how the thrust attack was crushing enemies. We lost the. On top of that, we saw some discussion around how the thrust attack was crushing enemies. We lost a note from the concept art that we took together that made clear that the breaker's chain is no normal chain. Instead, new links are forged as the chain is thrust forward, using molten magic to slam the breaker through tissue, hide, rock, or whatever else stands in your way. Once your opponent has been subtly obliterated, the same magic used to forge new links will retract the chain, meaning you can save your energy for flexing your newfound mega rare rather than tiring yourself out by swinging it around the whole time. So that's cool that they're giving you some lore stuff here. I never really got into RuneScape for lore, but it is cool that they're kind of giving you a lore explanation because I mean, I say that I haven't been into lore, but recently, I mean, the lore has been getting pretty good with this new quest. So it is cool that they're like doing a little bit more to, I guess talking about it a little bit more because it's something that I neglected as a kid, and I'm sure a lot of people did. I don't know anything besides like Guthix, Ceridomin, and Zami. The only lore that I knew was like the YouTube videos. I don't know, of people talking about it back in the day, but anyways, so thoughts on the breaker? Yeah, it makes sense. You don't want it to seep into the scythe. Uh, it was going to do that, and I had a feeling it was going to do that. It was like it just sounded so much like a fang, where it just re-rolls your damage. Um, so it's like it almost seemed like it was going to put the fang to shame and stab. I'm sure. In fact, it probably would have. Honestly, like how strong it sounded like, you would take that almost anywhere. Like maybe not in TOA because it's everything's we can see to stab and see away. But honestly, like I didn't look at any of the calcs or anything like that. But this thing is pretty strong. So the fact that they brought it down a notch, I think it was the right move. It's much easier to balance something before you put it into the game because once you put it into the game and then people start buying it and getting it as drops and stuff, and then you don't want to go in there and suddenly start changing things randomly. People find that annoying. So, like they're about to do with the shadow. So I don't know. Hopefully, I don't lose too much money on that, but it is what it is. So hybrid armor. So here's the part that everybody was complaining about, and supposedly they took it out. So we're gonna find out right now. So saving the spiciest for last. Let's chat about the most contentious part of our initial proposal. We went into our first outing expecting that this would be the most divisive. Ah, okay. So they already knew we were going to complain about that for all of the reasons that you pointed out. Currently, the Fractured Archive is billed as old school's toughest raid yet, which is a title that we really hope it lives up to. With that in mind, many players argued that endgame players already sporting best in slot armor had no reason to use this in any established metas unless more mage tank methods sprung up for low effort, high output boss killing, which isn't something we're looking to introduce on a whim, though we have no issue with it in the Inferno. So please don't put off chasing that cape. Get stuck in. Okay. On the flip side, others argue that that it's pretty close to the likes of Oathplate and Virtus offensively. It was. I mean, I don't remember what the stats were, but I remember just being a best in slot stab. So I don't remember what the other bonuses were. So while also sporting an incredible defensive stat line with and some prayer bonus to boot, this armor was pretty cracked. Meaning players without best in slot gear already would likely try to grab this set and absorb a huge chunk of melee and magic gear progression. Yes, that's kind of what I was thinking. As it stands, this armor set feels like it's not good enough for players at the top end while also being too good for players still progressing on their gear journey. This makes this set healthy To make this set healthy, we like to need to tone it down a little bit more. Yes, I agree. That's what I said in my last video, that they need to nerf this, which would further weaken its position for endgame players. And here, before I even get any further, ask yourself what I said on the last video is like, do you really want this as a raid item, right? Because like you want good stuff. You don't want mid tier stuff. It fits in the raid as like the mid tier stuff, the stuff that you don't really want to get. Like unfortunately, just this year is that. But if you look at Chambers of Zarek, like you pull like your fourth arcane or whatever, or or the twisted buckler or something like that. It's like, oh, it's that drop that's like you don't really want to see. You're happy that you got it because like a little bit of loot, but it's not the drop you want to see. I think that it fits that niche, or it would have fit that niche. Uh, but it's not the top thing that you want, you know? It's just like I don't you either have to make this armor super cracked, right? To make it worth it for a raid item or just nerf it. And it's like you really want that as a raid item. Anyways, to continue on, for these reasons, we're opting not to move forward with the hybrid armor from the factory archive. Okay, so yeah, they are gonna take it out. But we'll instead explore future sources where we could tone this down and offer it from content that makes sense for armor at an appropriate power level. So that makes sense. So yeah, they can add it. I'm not opposed to it being in the game. It should be like a smidge step up from the like the blood not blood moon perilous moons armor, like make it fit that niche, but just like slightly a little bit slightly buffed from there. That would be great. Honestly, I don't mind. I have like the cruncher in view with most of these drop tables and stuff. I don't care if the drop table is like super big. Like I kind of like that there's a lot of variety and things that you can get. I like that Chambers has like a huge drop table. I don't want it changed, you know. I like how it is with a lot of things in there. So I wouldn't, if they kept it in there and they nerfed it, that would have been fine. I wouldn't mind it. But no, they decided to take the whole thing out, and they want to add some more content down the road, which I guess that makes sense too. That's not the worst route that they could have taken, right? So, in fact, it's probably the more popular route. My opinion is probably not as popular as most people most people's out there, right? So we saw a lot of love for the visuals here, and would love to find a way to introduce them. That I could agree with that. Yeah, the visuals were great. Whether it's its own armor set or a cosmetic override remains to be seen. It should just be its own armor set, whatever. What are they gonna make it like? Uh, I don't know. Ancestral. Ancestral already has a cosmetic override, but anyways, so naturally, this leaves us in a position where we've only got 3 tradable rewards on offer. So we have some more space to fill. Yeah, we saw a lot of discourse around the volume of rewards on offer and how 6 felt like too few. Yeah, there's so little rewards here. It's like we need more, man, for our raid. Really, like you're gonna come in here and green log this thing in like a year, and then you have like another 4 years before the next raids raid, and then you're gonna get another 3 items or 4 items, like it's not good. Like you need to add more stuff to it. Like that's why I like the more bloated drop tables, because there's so much to grind. I like having like a lot of stuff to grind for. But anyways, but our hope here is to release with a set of uniques where everything feels desirable and that there are ideally no drops that feel like a dud. You're gonna get that. It's just every raid is gonna have that probably. You know, you're there's always gonna be the drop that you don't want to see. It's just like the a hierarchy of things, right? Not everything can be equally as good as everything. I mean, in TOA, there's the ward sucks. Okay, you're gonna have those items. It doesn't have to be everything is good. Like it's better if there's not. But hey, we live in reality, you know, and the reality is to keep everything in a raid relevant is like kind of a difficult task, especially that you're going to add more content in the future, right? It's just things are going to become irrelevant over time. Okay, so let's go back. We saw this. Okay, but our hope is here to release unique set that feels desirable and they're leading. Okay, we'd rather ship with 5 rewards that you're excited than 3 rewards that you're excited to see and 4 rewards that'll make your make you roll your eyes. I mean, I always thought that's part of the fun, man. Part of the fun, in my opinion, is getting a purple at TOA, for example, not knowing what it is, and you're like, is it junk? Is it gonna be another light bearer 5 mil, or am I gonna pull a shadow? Like, and then you pull a shadow, and it's like the best feeling in the world. And then sometimes, most of the time, you're gonna pull the crappy drop, but that's fine. Like, to me, it's part of the fun. Like, if you're here, if you get a purple, and every single time it's gonna be good, like that's not, I don't know. It just kind of takes the excitement out of a purple. How you go to Chambers of Zarek, and I raid with buddies, and they're like, don't tell me what it is. Don't tell me what I got. Right? It pulled a purple. They know they got a purple. They see the purple light, but they have their chat hidden, and they don't want me to tell them what they got because they got an arcane. But that's part of the fun, right? Like, you don't know what it is. It could just be like a T, and you don't know. So I mean, they should just embrace it. I would hate, like, you get to this raid and everything is like, okay, a lot of the stuff is good, but everything is, you're gonna get a purple and it's gonna be good. I don't know. Yeah, this is just my thoughts on that. So, what are we filling that space with? Take a look. So, here are the items that they're gonna propose in here in place of the hybrid armor. So, brimming with infernal energy, the Gatekeeper's Cane is a damage-focused special attack option for magic with a twist. Magic as a style historically lacks any. Wait. Gatekeeper's Cane. Damage-focused special attack option for magic with a twist. What? Is that like an item or is just like a special attack? Okay. Anyways, magic styles impactful DPS specs. The volatile nightmare staff enjoys some niche usage in PvP, but lacks the accuracy to really shine in PvM settings. Instead, the majority of usable magic special attacks focus on stat reduction to increase your overall DPS. To fill this gap, we set out to make something that can compete with Dragon Claws or the Zarek crossbow with a handful of best in slot use cases. Some use cases where it outperforms one but not the other, and a little extra flair. We settled on the Gatekeeper's Cane, a new powered staff. Here's how it works. Stat wise, the Gatekeeper's Cane is identical to the Eye of Ayak. So 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 it's an item with like a magic DPS spec weapon. Okay. I see what they're saying. Okay, so it's a stab. I mean, it's a staff with a special attack that you want for the special attack. Okay, that makes sense. Stat-wise, the Gatekeeper's Cane is identical. Okay, it has lower base max hit of 18 compared to the Ice 21. This effect means plus 30 magic accuracy with some flavorful defense bonuses with no inherent magic damage percentage. The special attack costs 50 energy to fire off a hit with 100% increased accuracy and 50% increased damage. If the initial hit connects with and deals damage, you'll be imbued with energy from Infernus itself, getting a powerful buff. While buffed, your next 3 attacks with the Gatekeeper's Cane also have 100% increased accuracy, 50% increased damage, and a faster attack rate, hitting every 2 ticks. In effect, the DPS portion of the special attack isn't in a single hard-hitting attack, but in empowering yourself with demonic energy to dish out rapid-fire hits afterwards. This makes this particularly interesting is that what makes this particularly interesting is that because the damage is dealt by buffing you rather than just hitting an enemy, you can spread your damage across targets rather than needing to put all of your eggs in one basket. So that's pretty cool. I like the concept of that. It's unique. At first I was reading this, like, yeah, it sounds kind of like it could be like a Void Waker or something like that, but no, this is definitely a unique item here. The Gatekeeper, I actually kind of like it because it's like, it seems like it's something that can require like more skill to use. The Gatekeeper's Cane should shine versus enemies where Dragonclaw's accuracy falls short or their hit points are too low to let the Zera crossbow shine. Some example of places where the cane would be outright best in slot include Kalphite Queen, all God War generals, Dagannoth, Rex, Zora, Magma Phase, Whisperer, Olm's Right Hand, and a handful more. It's also really easy for us to make this special attack shine if we feel it's falling too far out of favor, since it's simple to rebalance to balance around. Even in places where the cane doesn't win out over both of those options, there are plenty where it'll be your next best option. And we're sure you'll find cool ways to utilize the ability to spread damage across multiple targets. Let us know what you make of this one. We're excited to see whether or not changing the way that spec damage is delivered might make for an item that feels as fun as to use as powerful. So, I mean, it sounds like a cool concept. What I really wish it would do, I mean, I don't know how much dev time or resources it costs to do something like this. Is like kind of make like a little animation to see like kind of what it is that they're proposing, because it makes sense. It's just like it your next three attacks with the Gatekeeper's Cane also have 100% increased accuracy, 50% increased damage, and a faster attack rate, hitting every two takes. So, I mean, I guess it's self-explanatory enough. I think it's cool, but I think it would be nice to have that like what it shows like like a representation of what it would be like. Because it'll kind of give you an idea of like what to expect, right? Like you get it'll better easier to compare it to other items in the game that I'm not thinking about. There's so many items in this game. Um, what items are like that? If there is even any. I um I'm really not sure. I don't know. Maybe there isn't any item like this, but I mean, my thoughts on it. It sounds cool. I think I would just need to actually see what it would look like and what they're aiming for, and then uh, see how it would fit into calculators. Um, but I like the idea. I think it's cool. They should put this in there and put the hybrid back armor back in there as a trash drop. Anyways, new proposal: Zeal a Piety upgrade. This is cool. I think I like this. Okay, so it's like a prayer upgrade. Man, here we go. For years, we've heard calls for turmoil to make its way into to old school. If you're new around here, Turmoil is a high level ancient curse focused on boosting your melee stats and draining your opponents that was added to RuneScape in 2009. I remember Turmoil, but I don't think I ever got to use it. I was like too much of a noob back then to even uh to even get anywhere close to the level required to use that. But I remember it being a big thing, like Soul Split. Anyways, digging into these requests throughout the years paints a more accurate picture of a desire for something that isn't exactly turmoil, but more focused on an unlockable upgrade to piety. While magic and range require raid rewards for to each to reach their fullest potential, your best option for melee comes from a quest that's completed very early into the average character's life cycle. In the interest of adding some objective best in slot upgrades to a raid that's targeted at players at the top end, we like to propose Zeal. Zeal is a piety overwrite, similar to Deadeye and Mystic Vigor overriding Eagle Eye and Mystic Might, requiring level 84 prayer to unlock. So I think 77 is augury, if I remember right. Let me look that up really quick so I can see how much of a jump that is. Standard prayer 77 is augury. So yeah, that's a good enough upgrade. Like it's a good enough jump. 84. That'd be the highest level prayer. Uh to increase your strength. Okay, holy crap. To increase your strength by 28%, attack by 25%, and defense by 25%. Oh my god, that's a lot. That's like a huge freaking strength. That's a huge freaking strength upgrade. I can get behind that. Whatever, man. I don't care. That'd be great. I think that'd be cool to have actually. So here let's keep going. Since we're overriding piety here, Zeal would sport the same drain rate, meaning it's just an objective upgrade with no drawback or trade off. Lovely. Support the same drain rate. Wow. Damn. Since we're overriding damn, it would have the same drain rate. That's crazy. I think I like that. This is a straight up this is a straight up upgrade to melee, and it is a hefty one for a prayer. that you'll have at all times. In effect, this grants some extra accuracy and an additional 6 strength levels for prayer with 99 strength using potions. So, kind of like what I'm wondering, and maybe they're going to talk about this, I'm sure they will, but like, is it like permanent? Because what if you want to like not use it anymore and sell it to do some kind of rebuild or something? I mean, it's probably not going to be like that. But then people are gonna start complaining. They're gonna be like, "Oh, I already got this. I don't need it anymore." And no, they need to make it like less common or more rare or something, and make the other ones more, the other drops from the table more common. So I don't know. People are always gonna complain, but anyways, making it a must-have. Since this is going a level beyond existing prayer tiers, we're not expecting to make this the most common of the rewards. So seeing the necessary unlock items should be pretty exciting. Okay, so it's not gonna be very common. Oh, yeah, I like this idea. This is cool. We're not set on an implementation yet, but we're hoping to do something a little cooler than just reading a piece of paper in the bank, since unlocking rigor and augury feels pretty unceremonious for how significant they are as upgrades. Um, I mean, what are you talking about? Rigor and augury feels unceremonious. It's like back in the day, that stuff was like great. I remember like rigor was like 70 or 80 mil. But here's the thing, like it can be as rare as it is as you want it to be, and it'll maintain a super expensive value. But if this is like a prayer that you use it once and it gets deleted from the game and you never need it again, then the price is just gonna come down over time. So there's not much you can really do in that regard, because it's like, uh, you know, 5 years down the road, there's gonna be tons of these items in the game, and once you have it, you use it and you consume it, you don't need it anymore. It's upgraded. At least that's how the other prayers work. So, I mean, I don't know where their heads at with this stuff. I don't know how long term they think. I'm sure they think very long term, but it's not. I still don't think rigor and augury are unceremonious. Especially for Iron Man. I don't really play Iron Man that much, but um, it's. I think it's a big deal, man. I'm happy. I'd be happy to get rigor and augury an account. It's pretty big deal. So, and that is a step up from normal, from rigor and augury, right? I mean, let's see, like, what is the stats for rigor? So rigor is uh 20% attack and 23% range strength and 25% defense. So, what are they gonna do now? Make another range and mage upgrade down the road? So, I mean, might as well. We need to add more content, more rewards for people down the road. So it's I don't know. I think I like the upgrade. I just think that the perspective on it, maybe I don't know. I think maybe they don't see it the same way like I do. But anyways, we appreciate that this isn't exactly the flashiest reward of all time. I think it's great. But we if but think it makes sense as the fracture archive is to be offered at least something you'll want with you always. Yeah, similar to unlocking rigor augury or obtaining other ubiquitously strong items like the light bearer. And we can't imagine that this upgrade is one you'd like to leave at home. Yeah, it could be like the light bearer, right? It's a really good item. It's super strong, but you don't want to see it in a raid. Just like especially if you're a main. Like if you're a main, you want to get something big, right? Not a light bearer, even though it is freaking strong. So that wraps up our blog post update. We apologize for the delay, but we'll be able to turn around subsequent updates a much quicker pace if they're necessary. We think we've got a solid foundation. Hope that we'll be able to start polling sooner rather than later. So, initial blog post was on June 16th. A quick disclaimer before we start. While we know this blog is going to spark a lot of discussion, um, what the heck are they talking about here? Is this hold on. Initial. I think this is like referencing back. Yeah, this is going back. Okay, it's fine. So, okay. This is just like Okay, I'm gonna edit that out. Okay. Anyways, we're gonna end the video here. Like and subscribe. We're gonna keep making content for you guys. And for those of you making fun of my forehead, whoever that was, I remember who you are.